A legal right to work from home will boost productivity, says Labour. We're going to read into this more from the Times, you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with an article from the Times with the headline of "The legal right to work from home will boost productivity," says Labour. Jonathan Reynolds, the business secretary, vows to end the culture of presenteeism, if I even said that right, to make workers more motivated and resilient. Guys, while you're here, make sure you hit the like button and share this across social media so others are notified of this video. Now, as someone who is currently, shall we say, self-employed, technicality self-employed, working from home as a YouTuber, and has been as someone in the past who has worked in various places as well, outside rather than working at home. I can tell you, it depends. It can depend on depends on people's flexibilities and comforts. But I think people should be able to have a bit more of a freedom of choice of whether they want to work from home or whether they want to work in their workplace. Now, obviously, it varies from whatever sector, whatever job, whatever that the industry that it is, because obviously every industry is different in its own way, of course. Now, there are obviously some cases where you have to be in that place of work because of the way its system is, or there could be a case of they need, or if it's a case of a simple, like a phone being part of a phone calling job, like calling in for sales or insurance or whatever on a telephone or something. It's not really, there may be an office for that, but it could be easier for you to do it at home in the comfort of your own home. You're still able to fulfill your duties, but you don't necessarily need to get in your car, drive to A to B, or get public transport to get to the office to be a part of that. However, there are negatives and positives as well. So there are negatives and positives as well. So one of the positives that I would say about obviously people who go to work is obviously you're out of your bubble of being at home. You're in a bubble. You're not in that comfort zone, because when you're at home, you're in your comfort zone, don't you? You feel a sense that when you're at home, you're in your so-called safe space, right? Well, when you're taken out of that safe space, you're forced to kind of, step out of that safe zone. And sometimes, it can be a good thing to be stepping out of your safe zone, even though you don't kind of want it to. And people who work in offices and whatnot, even though they're sitting behind a computer and whatnot, they still have a social interaction. They have other work colleagues and sort of thing. It could be a good morale boosting in terms of team and productivity, working creativity, rather than obviously having like Zoom calls and whatnot. Actually having a lot closer interaction with your colleagues and that on a more personal basis, because you're having face-to-face interactions as opposed to having interactions through a computer screen like we're having here. So there are positives to that. And as somebody who has worked in retail as well, I can tell you it's really good. It's a really good team effort in terms of team building as well. So there's that perspective to it. The negatives of it, of course, is that sometimes some people are more obviously some workplaces are not as fair, or depending on the kind of job, they're not treated as well as they would like. Some are treated not fairly or equally. And like I said, the cost of traveling to your place obviously can play a factor into it too. That's more time off your life as well, because you're spending more time obviously traveling to and from work as well, and obviously the cost effects to that as well. And you go to that workplace and perhaps you're not as productive as you could be, potentially as well, but you may not be as motivated. Perhaps maybe the job that you have, while it is a job, maybe you're not as keen on it, and you're more happier when you're doing your job at home rather than with the people around you. It can vary. Like I said, there are lots of variations to it, but there are negatives there to it. So, but I generally believe that people should have more of a choice. If people can do their job from home and the option is there for them, they should be allowed to have that option for them. If they are able to fill their working obligations from home, they should be able to do that. But if they can't do that, then they do need to go into their work. Now, there are obviously some companies and whatnot are doing like where they have 1 or 2 days they can be at home and 1 or 2 days they can be in the work. It varies, which I think is a fair system. But I also think that should be something that can be discussed, obviously, between employer and employees as well. Obviously, trade unions played a really important role in obviously supporting the employees in this factor. So again, if you're not part of a union, I do recommend checking out joining a union as well to help that as well, because obviously being a part of a union can help you make that decisions about your job as well. Plus, support from your fellow workers also helps as well. So yeah, there's a lot to this. There is a lot to this, but we want to improve our productivity as all 4 nations, not just England, but all 4 nations want to improve productivity. And if people are better and more productive at home doing their job than being in an office, for example, then why not? But again, it can be counterintuitive, because in some cases, some people are better, more productive at their job workplace than they are at home. So the answer to it, in my opinion, is it varies. And it's an interesting one, to say the least. So let's hear what Jonathan Reynolds, the business secretary, had to say on this, guys. So Labour has pledged to end the culture of presenteeism in Britain's workplace, in saying that the default right of flexible working will make staff more productive and loyal. So Jonathan Reynolds, the business secretary, said that giving employees the right to work from home or ignore work emails and calls in the evening will make them more motivated and resilient. In an interview with The Times, he said it was bizarre that one of his Conservative predecessors, Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg, had been declaring war on people working from home. He stressed there are real economic benefits to more flexible working. Reynolds denied claims of tensions over workers' rights with Angela Rayner, the Deputy Prime Minister, who is said to be pushing for even tougher changes as a shorter probation periods. He said they were working very closely together on a package of reforms. Interesting. However, he emphasises that the principle of probation periods was important to ensure that employees live up to the promise that they have in the interview. Yeah, that is true. Like I said, if you're not as productive, then you should be at home. Then you should be dragged into the workplace, so that they can have more of an eye on you when it comes to the jobs that you have. If you're not living up to that at home, then you need to be dragged in. Absolutely right. Despite a promise to introduce legislation on workers' rights within 100 days, Reynolds insisted did not mean immediate changes to the law, and that taking time to negotiate the details with employers was more important than rushing through reforms. So he promised 100 days, which he shouldn't have done. That was very stupid of him. So that was very, very dumb. That was the first thing. You should not be promising something like that within 100 days, considering how there's a lot of things that come to it. And obviously there are a lot of issues, as I'm sure you guys are aware. Yeah, in hindsight, this was very dumb. And rightfully so, guys, if you are obviously anti-Labour. I'm not a Labour person, but if you want to throw stones at Labour for making this promise they didn't keep, you're more than welcome to do so. But yeah, he should not have made that. Business groups have raised concerns about the proposals. Of course they would, warning that they could have unintended consequences, such as the end of overtime, as well as pushing up the cost of hiring staff. No, I don't buy that whatsoever. The end of overtime. No, I don't buy that at all. I really don't buy that at all. As somebody who has worked and been asked to do overtime, and 9 times out of 10, I've always said yes. Now, obviously, everybody else is different, but you're not ending overtime you're always putting that option there to people that if they want to work more, they can have that option to work more. It varies from different industries, different people, and different stuff. I don't buy this at all. I think that's just scaremongering from business groups, if I'm honest. I really do. Reynolds defended plans for flexible working and a right to switch off. It does contribute to productivity. It does contribute to staff resilience and their ability to stay working for an employer, he said. Yes, this is also another thing that, the right to switch off. So for those who don't know, so this proposal about obviously employees need to have this opportunity when they are at home, when they're not on the clock, when they're not working, to be able to switch off from work and not actually worry about what goes on basically. People need to have that. Not everybody can have that. Obviously some jobs, obviously they need to be on the dot 24/7, but there are some jobs where it's completely unnecessary. I know that the majority of workforces out there, they have their own WhatsApp groups to obviously stay connected to each other, which is totally understandable. But obviously, I generally think when you are not working, you need to be able to switch off and not think about work, because it can weigh on your mind from a mental point of view as well. Because some people, it consumes, work can consume them. Some people love that, and that's totally cool. If you love work 24/7, that's great. But some people want to have a balanced life, and it's hard for people to have a balanced life, especially when you always have WhatsApp messages, especially when you have your notifications on and you see WhatsApp messages regarding work all the time on your phone. Doesn't mean, even though you're sitting at home or whatever, doing whatever you're going on in your life outside of work, you're not technically switched off completely from work, because you're still seeing stuff about work, even when you are on holiday abroad or something. It's not ideal, is it? Now, obviously, you can, people need to be able to have that complete turn off and not worry about it. It really does matter. It does contribute to productivity. Yeah, I read that bit already, sorry. Good employers understand that their workforce to keep them motivated and resilient. They do need to judge people on outcomes and not a culture of presenteeism. Yeah, so the idea is that this presenteeism, so the idea is about they should always be in the workplace. And what Jonathan Reynolds, the business secretary, and this government are kind of highlighting is that no, it's okay for people to be working at home as long as they can still do their job. If it means that they are more productive at home than they are at work, then that's a good thing. But like I said, it varies. I really have to stress that word. Next month, Reynolds will publish an employment rights bill which will give staff more protections from day one, ban exploitative zero-hour contracts, and make flexible working a default right. In a package bill by Sir Keir Starmer as the biggest overhaul of workers' rights in a generation. Reynolds rejects Tory accusations that Labour was in hook to the unions as a clinch 70s line. He boasted of the party's success in raising money from business donors and insisted employers had nothing to fear from the reforms. Yeah, I don't think I can understand businesses concerned about this. This is if workers are more productive, it means businesses are better off. If you have a better workforce, a more productive workforce, then businesses do better. They make more money, because that's the end of the day, isn't that what business is all about? These are popular changes both with the public and actually with businesses themselves, he said. Every time I have a session with businesses when we are able to talk candidly, they are assured that what we are saying, and actually what they support it. Intense negotiations are underway on key elements, such as the length of probation periods. Reynolds said it was not right that some staff had to wait 2 years for full rights, but stressed, of course, we want to get the detail right. The bill will not include Labour's plans for single status of workers designed to crack down on bosses who, for example, evade their obligations to staff by classing them as temporary workers. Reynolds said this was particularly complicated and needed further time, while other elements would be subject to further consultations. The Employment Right Bill isn't a package entirely, he said. We will be hitting the 100-day deadline that has been put forward, but in terms of implementation, obviously that's not the end of the process. I wouldn't like people to think the employment law framework will change overnight when we present the bill. He said that while the government wanted to move quickly, fundamentally this is about getting it right, and that the quality of legislation that's more important than the pace at which you introduce it. Among the most controversial elements of the package are a right to switch off and a default right to flexible working. Under the former, companies would be told to develop codes of conduct banning from the contracting staff out of hours except in agreed circumstances. Until the latter, employers will be required to accommodate requests for flexible working such as compressed hours, school term only shifts, or working from home as far as reasonably practiced. The UK has very significantly regional inequalities, Reynolds said. It can play a single contribution to tackling that. And a lot of businesses will say that their motivation for being at a workplace is because it opens up a much wider range group of talent. Yeah, I do agree it does do that. He accepted that there were times where bosses would need to contact staff out of hours, saying that there was a balance to be struck as there was a right to work flexibility. Yeah, there has to be a balance. Yeah, this is true, because obviously there are situations where somebody calls in sick or whatever, and you need to contact somebody to get somebody in. Makes logical sense. You need to call somebody who's on their day off or whatever. You need somebody to come in. Makes total logical sense to do that. So there does need to be that balance there. There are times where it's absolutely necessary. It's legitimate to need the workforce in the office, he said. We want the default to be that people have access to flexibility working, but that doesn't mean that everyone will just work from home. Yes, this is the key thing. This is exactly the right thing for him to say, because this is not about making everyone work from home. It's about giving people more options, giving workers more options. And like I said, if they're more productive at home, it's better for the company, and it's better for the company and whatnot. Reynolds said likewise he insisted he would not compel every workforce to allow working from home, or insisted on a compressed 4-day working week. There is generally nothing to worry about in any business in this area, he said. I am all for the 4-day working week for me. I would be more than happy to work 8 hours a week. 8 hours a week for 4 days a week, or 8 or 10, even 12 hours a day for 4 days. And if it means me getting 3 days off, I'm more than happy to do that. I would rather do that than work 6 hours or 4 hour shifts at my workplace and then go home. That's my personal preference, but obviously some other preferences would be different. Especially when you have an extra day of work, you get more freedom to do the things that you want to do. But obviously, it varies from people to people, I would say, on that. As for what Jonathan Reynolds said, I like a lot of what he has said. I like that he has said, obviously, that there are some businesses that are on board with it. There are some businesses that are concerned with it. And they are obviously perfectly entitled to feel concerned about this too. But one of the things they are definitely doing is talking very closely with businesses, not shunning businesses like the Conservatives bloody did for 14 years. So there is that as well. But they're also looking at making, like I said, if workers are better off in the end, this is all a good thing in the end. And I really do hope that they get the balance right, that Labour does get the balance right with this. And I'm very intrigued to see how this comes through in the end, that I really, really am. But what do you guys honestly think? What do you guys make of this piece from Jonathan Reynolds? What do you guys make about the legal right to work from home? May boost productivity, says Labour, or will boost productivity. The 4-day working week as well. There's lots of ideas, there's lots of thoughts about this, and I really would like to have some more engagement on this, guys. So please let me know your thoughts about all this down in the comments section below. Now, if you found this video interesting, please hit the like button. It'd be greatly appreciated. Share this across social media so others are notified of this video. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing, because it really does help support the channel. And if you want to go one step further, financially support me in the work that I do here, you could be a YouTube member on this channel for just 99p and get access to lots of perks in doing so. Or you could also join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content on those platforms too. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.